Okomumu. They were the first gang in Lagos. So they are
Me let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. Send my love to your new lover. Treat her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. I was too strong, you were trembling, you couldn't handle the hot heat rising. Rising, baby, I'm so rising. I was running, you were walking, you couldn't keep up, you were falling down, down. There's only one way down. I'm giving you up, I'm forgiving it all. You set me free. Oh, send my love to your new love. Treat her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. Send my love to your new lover. Treat her better. We gotta let go of all of our goals. We both know we ain't kids no more. If you're ready, if you're ready, if you're ready, I am ready. If you're ready, if you're ready, we both know we ain't kids no more. I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited, but I couldn't stay away. I couldn't fight it. I'd hope you'd see my face and that you'd be reminded that for me it isn't over. Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you too. Don't forget me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Are you speaking?
No more. If you're ready, if you're ready, if you're ready, I am ready. If you're ready, if you're ready, we both know we ain't kids no more. Hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all these years you'd like me to go over everything. They say the time's supposed to heal ya, but I ain't got much heal. Hello, can you hear me? I'm in California dreaming about who we used to be when we were younger and free. I've forgotten how we felt before the word that I feel. There's such a difference between us and a million miles. Hello from the other side. I must have called it I'm sorry for everything that I've done, but when I call you, never seem to be home. Hello from the outside, and let's talk and say to tell you I'm sorry for breaking your heart, but it don't matter. It clearly doesn't tear you apart anymore. Hello, how are you? It's so typical of me to talk about myself and so I hope that you will. Did you ever make it out of that town? Nothing ever happened. It's no secret that the both of us are running out of time. Hello from the other side. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for everything that I've done. But when I call you, never seem to be home. Hello from the outside. At least I can say that I've tried to tell you I'm sorry for breaking your heart, but it don't matter. It clearly doesn't tear you apart anymore. Let it fall, my heart, and as it fell, you rose to claim it. It was dark, and I was over until you kissed my lips and you saved me. My hands, they were strong, but my knees were far too weak to stand in your arms.
Some of them are correct. I'm not sure it was this one.
There's a side to you that I never knew what it you say never true.
Right. This one is two. Two, correct. Oh, that was one. One. One.
I was trying to check them. I already checked.
So that's
First, so 4 minutes for 4 minutes.
Stay there, close my eyes, and you hear forever. You would be again, I'm getting better. Is there a side to you that I never knew of the things you'd say? They were never true, and the games you played, you would always win. But I said fire to the red, watch the color as I catch your face. Well, I burned while I cried, and I heard it screaming out your name.
Check.
Check, check, check. Mic check, check.
Mic. Check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
Check, check.
Check. Mic check 1 2. Check.
Okay, that was
Check. Mic check 1 2.
check.
Check. Check. Check. Check. I don't know. Check.
Seems as if it's
Check. Check. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
I mean there's gates on it or something like that.
Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, and it's bringing me half dark. The stars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The stars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help feeling we could have had it all. Rolling in the deep, you had my heart and soul in your hand, and you played it to the beat.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Baby, I have no story to be told. I've heard one on you, and I'm gonna make your head burn. Think of me in the depths of your despair. Making home down there is a mantra won't be shared. The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help feeling we could have had it all. Rolling in the deep, you had my heart.
The headquarters.
In your hand, and you played it to the beat. Throw your soul through every open
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
you look for, turn my sorrow into treasured gold. You pay me back in kind and I reap just what you sow. Oh, we could have had it all. We could have had it all. Oh, it all, it all, it all. We could have had it all. Rolling in the deep, you had my heart and soul in your hand, and you played it to the beat. We could have had it all. Rolling in the deep, you had my heart and soul in your hand, and you played it, you played it, you played it, played it to the beat. This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. for this is the end. I've drowned and dreamt this moment, so overdue I owe them. Swept away and stolen. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, face it all together. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, face it all together at skyfall. At skyfall. Skyfall is where we start. 1,000 miles and poles apart. When worlds collide and days are dark, you may have my number, you can take my name, but you'll never have my heart. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, face it all together at skyfall. Where you go, I go. What you see, I see. I know I'll never be me without the security of your loving arms, keeping me from harm. Put your hand in my hand and we'll stand. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, face it all together. Let the sky
Hello,
fall.
testing
When
microphone.
it crumbles, we will stand
Hello, testing.
tall, face it all
Hello,
together at skyfall. Let the sky
Hello, testing.
Check. Mic check 1 2.
Hello.
Me, I'm going so.
I'm also so close now. I'm very close.
Hello, check still one two. You're supposed to be close. You're supposed to just talk. Hello?
Sorry.
Hello? Testing. Are we supposed to press? Hello? Hello? So we have to put their really
That they can so can move it close. Yeah, no
Check.
problem. We will manage that one. Let's see. I know yesterday for Zenith they had this challenge. It was they had that challenge, but they still use the button because it's going to be talking for a very long time. So it won't be too okay No problem. Well, okay, I think this it's much better now. They will see that device there is powerful enough to. Okay, testing check. Testing. Okay. No, let's just test the one they will use now. We'll check everything later.
Chairman. This is MD. Secretary. Secretary.
I bet I remember you said sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead. Nothing compares, no worries or cares, regrets and mistakes there.
Check one,
Hello?
two. Testing microphone. Check. 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Testing microphone.
The finance director is Folake, right? Okay, so yeah.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Yes, 2 wireless here. With this verification in the two. And that's what we need to confirm. The remaining 200. Last class, this is more in the middle.
Check 1, 2. Testing microphone. Check 1, 2. Check. Check 1, 2. Testing microphone. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check. 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 Check 1, 2. Check. I think we have them there now. Check 1, 2. We have them there. Sammy.
You sound like a song.
Hello. Hello. You can hear me. Okay. Okay. Fairly. Secretary. Joba. No. Please, I need a secretary. I need no Sheson. Sheson. The registrar. Sheson. I need a secretary. I'm about to start. Yes. The company secretary. We'll play. Yes. That guy. Okay. So we are starting with the national anthem. Yes. The national anthem. We're about to start. Charlie is not coming. Ayeni. Olowe. No, she's not. Yes. Let's start. Please, can we have the national anthem? Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, the time is 10 o'clock. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 98th annual general meeting of our company. Coincidentally, this year is the centenary year of our great company. Accordingly, we will use the opportunity of this meeting to cut a cake in celebration of the anniversary as the end of the proceedings. At the end of the proceedings, I have received confirmation from our registrars, Greenwich Registrars and Data Solution Limited, that we have a quorum as required by Article 54 of the company's Articles of Association. Yes. I okay. I wish to inform you that while this meeting is being held in person physically, it's also being streamed live to enable shareholders, regulators, observers, and other stakeholders who are not able to join physically to follow the proceedings. Furthermore, I wish to inform you that safety and health measures have been put in place by our company for this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, there are nine items of business before you today. You will have opportunity to move and second motions put to the meeting and vote on each motion. There will also be ample opportunity for questions and comments. Please ensure that you raise your hand and are called before you speak. As we wish to have a full recording during the meeting, microphones connected to a tape recorder and amplifying equipment are in use so that everyone present should be able to hear. I would therefore request that those moving or seconding motions put to the meeting, making comments or asking questions, please step forward to the microphone, stand in the aisle, closer to them and speak clearly into the microphone. I wish to appeal to each questioner to be brief with the comments and or question so as to give others a chance to also ask questions. I would like to inform all members that the register of directors holding is available for inspection during meeting in compliance with section 301 subsection 8 of the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020. Before moving to the formal aspects of the meeting, I would like to introduce very briefly members of Board of Directors. I am Inemeka A. Achebe, Obi of Onitsha. I am a non-executive director and chairman of the board. I was appointed as chairman in July 2011. To my immediate left is Mr. Carl Cruz, who is the managing director. He was appointed as MD in February 2020. Next to Mr. Cruz is Mrs. Folake Ogundipe, who is an executive director appointed in April 2022. Next to Mrs. Ogundipe is Mrs. Abidemi Ademola, an executive director. She was appointed to the board in March 2023. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Ademola to our first annual general meeting as an executive director with the company. To my immediate right is Mrs. Folashade Olowe, the senior legal counsel and company secretary. She was appointed as company secretary in March 2023. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Olowe to our first annual general meeting. Next to Mrs. Olowe is Mr. Michael Ikpoki, an independent non-executive director. He was appointed to the board in February 2021. Next to Mrs. Ikpoki is Mrs. Abiola Alabi, a non-executive director. She was appointed to the board in December 2015. Next to Mrs. Alabi is Madam Hamuna Lawan Ali. She is an independent non-executive director and was appointed to the board in December 2015. Some of our directors are joining virtually. Mr. Jaime is joining the meeting virtually as he's currently not in the country. Mr. Jaime is a non-executive director as well as the president of Unilever Africa. He was appointed to the board in January 2021.
Chairman, can you please hold on? We would like to repeat this so that the camera will pan at each person as you call them, those that are around.
Well, it's because they have the pictures, that's why.
Yes, they are
They
not
have
even
the
getting the
pictures and they
pictures.
start.
There should be names.
You can drink some water while we
That
get
should be
ready.
names. Yes, that's
You direct the cameraman. Like you said, on my left side.
yes, he did. He
So,
did that. Said
so
that.
I need to put this.
Sorry, please, who is playing music? Can you please turn it off? Yeah, thank you. Are we fine now? Okay.
Present. So we have Achebe, Cruz, Bidemi, Cruz, Michael Bidemi, Olashade, Michael, nine seats. We have Igwe, Cruz, Bidemi, Olashade, Abiola, Lawan. Okay, it's
So it's just one person.
yes.
So that means their names needs to be here.
That's why we are. That's what was fighting for influencing.
How many times are we looking for this four? Four. So who's first? How we starting? So we're starting from roll call.
Okay. Before moving
check,
to the
check.
formal aspects of the meeting, I would like to introduce very briefly members of the board of directors. I am Inemeka Achebe Obi of Onitsha. I am a non-executive director and chairman of the board. I was appointed as chairman in July 2011. To my immediate left is Mr. Carl Cruz, who is also the managing director. He was appointed as the MD in February 2020. Next to Mr. Cruz is Mrs. Folake Ogundipe, who is an executive director appointed in April 2022. Next to Mrs. Ogundipe is Mrs. Abidemi Ademola, an executive director. She was appointed to the board in March 2023. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Ademola to our first annual general meeting. The picture. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Ademola to our first annual general meeting as an executive director with the company. To my immediate right is Mrs. Afola Shade Olowe, the senior legal counsel and company secretary. She was appointed as company secretary in March 2023. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Olowe to our first annual general meeting. Next to Mrs. Olowe is Mr. Michael Ikoki, an independent non-executive director. He was appointed to the board in February 2021. Next to Mrs. Ikoki is Mr. Ikoki. Next to Mr. Ikoki is Mrs. Abiola Alabi, a non-executive director. She was appointed to the board in December 2015. Next to Mrs. Alabi is Madam Amona Lawal Ali. She's an independent non-executive director and was appointed to the board in December 2015. Now we are going to the directors joining us virtually. Mr. Jaime is joining the meeting virtually as he is currently not in the country. Mr. Jaime is a non-executive director as well as the president of Unilever Africa. He was appointed to the board in January 2021. Mr. Mutiu Sumonu is also joining the meeting virtually due to circumstances beyond his control. Mr. Sumonu is an independent director. He was appointed to the board in December 2015. Mr. Chika Iwobi is also joining the AGM virtually as he is currently out of the country on official business. Mr. Iwobi was appointed to the board in January 2019. The profiles of all the directors are contained in the company's annual reports. I would like to introduce representatives of our auditors, KPMG Professional Services,
Sure.
Mr. Uzodima Iwako and Mr. Sopulu Inaji. Our registrar, Greenwich Registrars and Data Solutions Limited, Mrs. Obi Chiki Ijegbulem and Mrs. Mary Hay Adeleye. Also, the Nigeria Stock Exchange, formerly the Nigeria Exchange Regulation Limited, formerly the Nigeria Stock Exchange, Mrs. Antonia Hame, the Security and Exchange Commission, Mr. Adewoyin Adeyemi. The Corporate Affairs Commission had informed us that they will likely join this meeting virtually. I will also now introduce members of the Audit Committee. The shareholders representative of the Audit Committee are Mr. David Oguntoye, who is the chairman of the Audit Committee, Alhaji Wahab Ajani, and Mr. Kolawole Drojaye. The board members who are also members of the Audit Committee are Mrs. Abiola Alabi and Mr. Chika Inwobi. Also in attendance physically or virtually are members of the Unilever Nigeria leadership team and Unilever Nigeria managers. I will now call on the company secretary to read the notice of meeting, which is on pages 7 to 9 of the annual report and financial statements.
Hello. Notice is hereby given that the 98th annual general meeting of Unilever Nigeria PLC will be held at the Grand Banquet Hall, Civic Center, Victoria Island, Lagos, on Thursday, 4th May 2023 at 10 a.m. for the following purposes. Ordinary business: to lay before the members the report of the directors, the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2022, together with the reports of the audit committee and the independent auditors thereon. 2. To declare a dividend. 3. To elect and re-elect directors, to wit: 1. To elect Mrs. Abidemi Ademola, being a director elected since the last AGM, the annual general meeting. To re-elect the following directors retiring by rotation: Mr. Jami Aguilera, Madam Amuna Lawan Ali, Mr. Chika Nwobi. 4. To disclose the remuneration of the managers of Unilever Nigeria PLC. 5. To authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the independent auditors. And 6. To elect members of the audit committee, special business by special resolution. To consider and if thought fit, to pass the following as special resolution: amendment of the memorandum and articles of association. 1. The Article 49 of Memorandum of Articles of Association of the company be amended by the insertion of the following provision to replace the current provision. The company shall in each year hold a general meeting at its general meeting in addition to any other general meeting in that year, and shall specify the meeting such in a notice calling it, or not more than 15 months shall elapse between the date of the one annual general meeting and that of the next.
I expect
The annual general meeting shall be held in such manner, at such time and place as the director shall appoint, including virtually or by any other electronic means. All general meetings and other than the annual general meeting shall be called extraordinary general meetings. 2. That article 15.
Yes, I'm reading. Skip.
if I'm used to
Sodium.
Electronic annual reports. The electronic copy of the 2022 annual report is accessible on www.unilevernigeria.com and also circulated by email to all shareholders who have provided their email address to the registrars. The reports are also dispatched to the shareholders via their addresses in the shareholders register. Shareholders who are interested in receiving an electronic copy of the 2022 annual report by email should request via info@gtlregistrars.com. Profile of directors standing for election and re-election. The profile of the directors standing for election and re-election are contained in the annual report dated this 16th March 2023 by the order of the board. Mrs. Afolashade Olowe, Senior Legal Counsel and Company Secretary. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Olowe. Thank you, Mrs. Olowe. We now move on to the chairman's statement. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as it is the custom of our annual general meeting, I'd like to give a brief overview of the company activities in 2022 before we transact the ordinary business of the day. My statement is on pages 12 to 14 of the annual report and financial statement booklet. I will now proceed to read the same unless you would rather take it as read.
Take it as read.
In addition, the Managing Director, Mr. Carl Cruz, has also presented his report to the members on pages 15 and 16 of the annual report and financial statement booklet. Mr. Cruz will also proceed to read the same unless you would rather take it as read. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, item number 1 on the agenda is to lay before the members the reports of directors, the audited financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2022, together with the reports of the audit committee and the independent auditors thereon. As copies have been circulated to you in accordance with the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and the Companies Articles of Association, I hereby lay before this meeting the reports of the directors, the audited financial statement for the year ended 21st December 2022, and the reports of the audit committee and the independent auditors thereon. I will now call on Mr. Uzodinma Iwako, a partner in the firm of KPMG Professional Services, the independent auditors, to read the independent auditors report, which is on pages 65 to 68 of the annual report and financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2022, earlier circulated to all members. Thank you, Mr. Nwako. I will now call on Mr. David Oguntoye, the chairman of the Audit Committee, to read the report of the Audit Committee to members of Unilever Nigeria PLC, which is on page 63 of the annual reports and financial statements. Thank you, Mr. Oguntoye. I shall be pleased to answer questions and take comments which you may have on the chairman's statement, the managing director's report, and the 2022 annual reports and financial statement before we proceed to the next item of business. Any question? In making your comments or asking your question on reports and financial statements, it will help to ensure that we give the right answer if you would refer to pages of the reports and financial statements to which your comments or questions relate. Members should please be brief in their comments and questions to afford opportunity to other shareholders to have their say. Shareholders who are following the proceedings online can also write their question in the comment section of the online platform through which they are following the meeting. We will, as time permits, read out and answer some of those questions. Are there any comments or questions, please? In exercise of the powers conferred on me by virtue of Section 241, subsection 1 of the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020, I hereby call for a poll on item 2, 3, 4, 3, 5, 7, 8, and 9 on the agenda. Accordingly, voting for this resolution will be done electronically. Each shareholder or proxy has been given a voting device, and the results will be displayed on the screen and on the live streaming of the meeting so that those who are not present physically can view them. Kindly note that each resolution at this meeting, except item 7, requires a simple majority of the votes cast in order to be passed, being ordinary resolutions. I now invite the representative of Greenwich registrars to provide guidance on the electronic voting process.
So you now project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we'll run through the voting instruction. At the point of accreditation, an electronic voting device has been issued to shareholders eligible to vote. Each device has been activated and is ready for use. On the voting pad, 1 represents yes, 2 represents no, and 3 represents abstain. Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and press 3 for abstain. Voting for a resolution commences and ends in 30 seconds. Voting results will be displayed immediately each voting session ends. Results will be displayed in shareholding percentage and unit holding. Please do not touch any other device, any other button on the voting pad other than 1, 2, or 3. We'll have the first resolution on display.
Can I see? Sorry. Yes. No, give me the annual report. Yes. Where's the notice? Notice. No, not yet. Can't even see.
No, there's a form. This is the time for the big form. So you will now read it.
I want to see the notice.
Nice. I can look at it.
I just declare without commitment.
Oh, that's the first one.
Okay, okay.
For us to, tell them this is what it is. Then this is the first declaring the dividend is the first resolution.
Okay.
We are not doing it. We just want to do it. What you did was just to read the voting instructions. When you are going to vote, when you vote, that's when this is.
So it shouldn't come at this point.
You just read it and then you. So just start from. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Adelaye. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion that a dividend of 1,436,251,250 naira, that is 25 kobo per share, subject to deduction of appropriate withholding taxes and other statutory deduction for the year ended 31st December 2022 out of the amount standing to the credit of the statement of comprehensive income be paid to members on the register of members at the close of business on Thursday, 17th April 2023. You can't put it to vote. You can't vote on this. Yes, make the motion. And then somebody will move the motion. One of the shadow. Okay, take over. That means that instruction at the first instance.
Yeah,
It's not supposed to come. It's supposed to be here.
This will that you want.
So how do we do this now?
Just start with it.
Relevant.
Yes, you can just amend it. It's just
You,
for that one to
can,
do it.
can you? Yes.
These ones are okay. It's just like it's not supposed to be there.
Voting on this. Okay. What do you want to check? Come on. What do you want to check?
I said this will not. No, I don't want to come. I have some samples.
For voting. It's just to remove.
It's supposed to be by.
We go.
That one was the dividend declaration. Dividend declaration. Yes. That's
Let's get to the notice. So item one is to declare
item one.
dividend.
You understand? This is item one for the old business.
Yes. To declare dividend. Yes.
Yes, which were at point.
We are at the point now.
That's where we were.
Yes.
That's where
You are the other.
that's where we were.
That's your
Yes.
Yes.
So we now
No, to declare
project.
dividend.
Okay. We now project.
Um.
I said it was too late.
We proceed to item number 2.
Item 2.
Yes. Just
No, that's it. So we produce to item number 2 on our agenda, which is to declare a dividend. The board has recommended a dividend of 1.44 billion naira, that is 25 kobo per share, subject to the deduction of appropriate withholding taxes and other statutory deduction in compliance with government guidelines for the year ended 31st December 2022. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion that a dividend of the per share subject to deduction of appropriate withholding tax and other statutory deduction for the year ended 31st of December out of the amount standing to the credit of the statement of comprehensive income be paid to members on the register of members at the close of business on Thursday, 17th April 2023.
I hereby move the motion.
Seconded.
Thank you, Mrs. Adelaye. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We have the resolution on display. The timer is up. Please vote. 1 represents yes. 2 represents no. 3 represents abstain.
6. Yes.
No, okay.
It's too small. Thank you. We have voting has ended. We have 98.19% in favor of the resolution and 1.81% abstained. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Adelaye. The result of the going to be declared no dissenting vote. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously.
I hereby declare the motion carried.
We would now proceed to item number 3 on our agenda, which is the election of directors appointed after the last annual general meeting and re-election of directors retiring by rotation in accordance with the Articles of Association and CAMA 2020. In accordance with Section 274 subsection 1 and Section 275 subsection 1 of the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020, Mrs. Abidemi Ademola was appointed as Executive Director since the last annual general meeting to fill the casual vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Felix Iwemadu to comply with the requirements of the CAMA 2020. Pursuant to Section 274 subsection 2 of CAMA, may I ask the shareholder to move the following motion that Mrs. Abidemi Ademola be and is hereby elected as a director of the company.
I move the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Olowe. Someone should second the motion.
Seconded.
Thank you, Ms. Olowe. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting. I now hereby invite the representatives of the Greenwich registrars to direct the electronic voting process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the next resolution on display to re-elect Mrs. Abidemi Ademola as the director. The timer is on. Please vote. 1 represents yes, 2 represents no, and 3 represents abstain. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 99.95% in favor of the resolution and 0.05% against. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Adelaye. No dissenting votes. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. Distinguished shareholders, you would have seen from the report of the directors that 3 directors are retiring by rotation at this meeting in accordance with the Articles of Association of the company and being eligible, the retiring directors offer themselves up for re-election. They are Aime, Madam Amuna, and Mr. Chika Iwobi. Kule,
I hereby declare the motion.
the three directors are joining virtually.
So they have to
They have to be at their pictures.
together.
Yes. So, Mr. Jaime, Madam Amuna is here, and Mr. Chika Iwobi is joining us virtually.
So their picture will be presented.
Yes, their pictures should be projected.
So they should take note of that.
I want it to. I want us since it's a dry run.
So the numbering is messed up now
Kule,
because
should we go on? Should we go on? Or we should? I want them to project the pictures of Jaime. Those ones that are not here, that are joining virtually. Okay. The first director by rotation is Mr. Jaime, an executive director. May I ask the shareholder to move the motion? May I ask the shareholder to move the following motion? That Mr. Jaime Aguilera, who retires by rotation at this annual general meeting, and who being eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company.
I so move the motion.
seconded.
Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye. And now put the motion to the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The timer is up. Please vote.
Josh. Josh.
Voting has ended, and we have 99.95% in favor of the resolution, while 0.05% was voted against. This translates to This translates to 4,552,628,000 units of ordinary shares, of the ordinary shares.
Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye. No dissenting vote. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. The next director retiring by rotation at this annual general meeting is Madam Amuna Lawan Ali, an independent non-executive director. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion? That Madam Amuna Ali, who retires by rotation at this annual general meeting and who being eligible for election, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company.
I so move.
Any seconder?
I second.
I now put the motion to the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The resolution is on display to re-elect Madam Amuna Lawal Ali as a director. The timer is up. Please vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 97.84% in favor of the resolution and 2.16% against the resolution. This translates to 4,539,280,000 units of ordinary shares in favor, while 100,117,000 units voted against. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye. No dissenting votes. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. The final director retiring by rotation at this meeting is Mr. Chika Nwobi, a non-executive director. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion: that Mr. Chika Nwobi, who retires by rotation at this annual general meeting and who being eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Shareholder.
I so move.
Thank you. Any seconder?
I second.
I now put the motion to the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The timer is up. Please vote. Voting has ended, and we have 97.84% in favor of the resolution and 2.16% against. This represents 4,539,225,000 units of the ordinary shares in favor, while we have 100,117,000 units against the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye. No dissenting votes. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 4. The next item on the agenda is to disclose remuneration of managers of Unilever Nigeria PLC. In line with the provision of Section 257 of CAMA 2020, the remuneration of managers of Unilever Nigeria for the year ended 31st December 2022 has been disclosed on page 91, note 7 of the 2022 annual report and financial statements. The next item on the agenda is to authorize the director to fix the remuneration of the independent auditors. KPMG Professional Services has acted satisfactorily as our independent auditors for the past year and is represented at this meeting by Mr. Uzodin Manwako, partner, and Mr. Sopulu Chuku Inaji, KPMG Professional Services, has also indicated his willingness to continue as the company's independent auditors. Please note that under Section 401, subsection 2 of CAMA 2020, the retiring auditors are reappointed without any resolution being passed. However, Section 408, subsection 1B of CAMA 2020 requires that the auditor's remuneration shall be fixed by the company in the general meeting or in a manner as the company in the general meeting may determine. May I ask the shareholder to move the following motion: that the directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the remuneration and expenses of the auditors for the year ending 31st December 2023. Motion.
Motion moved.
Any seconder?
I hereby second.
Thank you, Mrs. Olowe. And I'll put the motion to the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the resolution on display, and the timer is up now. Please vote. Voting has ended, and we have 99.66% in favor of the resolution and 0.34% against. This represents 4,539,280,000 units of ordinary shares in favor, while 15,610,000 units voted against. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye. No dissenting votes. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. So we move on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is the election of the shareholders representatives on the audit committee in accordance with section 238 and 404 subsection 3 of the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020. In accordance with section 404 subsection 3 of CAMA 2020, our audit committee comprises of 2 representatives of the directors and 3 representatives of the shareholders. It is my pleasure to inform you that the directors have appointed their own representatives. You are to elect today the 3 validly nominated shareholders to represent you for the year ended 2023. Please note that voting shall be by show of hands in accordance with section 248, subsection 1 of CAMA 2020. In accordance with section 404, subsection 6 of CAMA, the company secretary had received valid nominations in writing 21 days before the annual general meeting from 13 shareholders, each nominating another shareholders as member of the audit committee. The nominators and the nominees have been confirmed as shareholders of the company. Accordingly, the valid nominees now being presented to you for election are as follows. Number 1, Wahab Ajani. Oguntoye David Olusegun. Kolawole Duro Jaye. Olasege Olaide Shukura. Ajao Johnny Adelakun. Adelakun David Benga. Olasege Babatunde Hamzat. Ajayi Ajibola Olufunsho. Owolabi Nurudeen Adekunle. Kunjeya Olaiwola Yusuf. Harrison Felix Abiodun. Okunla Emmanuel. Olagoke Samuel Olusegun. Having introduced the nominated shareholders and explained the election procedure to you, I will now hand over the voting process to the registrars.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the special resolution on display, and the timer is up. Please vote.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 99.66% in favor of the resolution and 0.29% against. And these figures translate to 4,539,280,000 units in favor of the resolution, while 13,348,000 units voted against. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye. Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye.
When he did the audit for the election, he read that. So he thought that was the resolution, not knowing that that was called the chairman, the show, that's the election.
Okay. It's written there. So, no, we did it. That was one, yes. Yes, that was what I was saying. No. Let's just move on. So, thank you, Ms. Adeleye. No dissenting vote. Yes. No dissenting vote. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 8, special business. Is it joint? The special resolution. Human fryers. The next item on the agenda is a special business which requires ordinary resolution. Item 8 concerns page 40. Item 8 concerns the remuneration of directors, and I should mention at this stage that the non-executive directors have decided to divide any fees voted to them by the company in general meeting in accordance with Article 74 of the Articles of Association of the company. Being a beneficiary myself, I now ask Mrs. Abidemi Ademola to conduct this part of the proceedings. This item on the agenda concerns the remuneration of the non-executive directors. The directors are recommending that their remuneration remains at the same level as was approved by member last year for the year ended 31st December 2022. That is 79,200,000 naira only as director's fee. In addition, sitting allowances will be paid at standard agreed rate at each meeting attended, and chairman will be entitled to a vehicle allowance of 15 million naira gross per annum in lieu of a company vehicle. The directors concerned are His Majesty A.A. Achebe, Mr. Mutiu Sumono, Madam Amuna Lawan Ali, Mrs. Abiola Alabi, Mr. Chika Iwobi, and Mr. Michael Ikuki. May I ask the shareholder to move the following motion: that in accordance with Article 74 of the Articles of Association of the company, the remuneration of the non-executive directors in respect of the year ending 31st December 2023 and until further notice be and is hereby fixed as 79,200,000 naira as director's fees. In addition, sitting allowances will be paid at standard agreed rate for each meeting attended, and the chairman will be entitled to a vehicle allowance of 15 million naira per annum.
I move the motion.
Any seconder?
Seconded.
Mrs. Adelaide. And I put the motion to the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the resolution on display and the timer is up. Please vote.
This one I won't take part in.
No, you will take it. I'll take it. It's only the last resolution.
Voting has ended, and we have 99.66% in favor of the resolution, while 0.34% voted against. This percentage represents 4,539,280,000 units of the ordinary shares in favor, while we have 15,610,000 units that voted against this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Adelaide. No dissenting votes. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a special business to consider if thought fit, pass the following as an ordinary resolution of the company. That pursuant to Rule 2 of the Rulebook of the Nigeria Exchange 2015, issuers rule, a general mandate be and is hereby given, authorizing the company during the 2023 financial year and up to date of the next annual general meeting to procure goods, services, and financing, and enter into such incidental transactions necessary for his day-to-day operations from his related parties or interested persons on normal commercial terms consistent with the company's transfer pricing policy. All transactions falling under this category, which were earlier entered into in 2022 prior to the date of this meeting, are hereby ratified. I wish to draw your attention to pages 124 and 128 of the 2022 annual reports and financial statements, which provides more information in respect of related parties transactions contemplated. It is also important to also let you know that this resolution is required to authorize the company to enter into recurrent transactions necessary for its day-to-day operation, such as the purchase, sale of supplies and materials, and procurement of goods and services with its related parties. That is with Unilever Holding BV, Unilever PLC United Kingdom, and other entities within the Unilever Group, up to transaction of a value equal to or more than 5% of Unilever Nigeria PLC net tangible assets. Please note that, as usual, the actual transaction will be disclosed in the annual report and financial statement for the current year. I hereby move that the following resolution be passed as an ordinary resolution of the company. Will someone please move the motion?
I, Mrs. XYZ, move the motion.
Any second?
I, Chief Ogbacheche, second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the resolution on display. The timer is up. Please vote.
Yes. Why are there so many flags? Yeah, is there something we can do to take away flies? Please, the flies are too much.
He is not voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 66.87% in favor of the resolution and 33.13% against. I would like to take this poll again. I'd like to repeat it.
Emmy. Yes. Emmy.
Okay, the timer is up. No, please vote.
Emmanuel. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 61.39% in favor of the resolution. We have 30.42% against and 8.2% abstained. This translates to 175 million units.
Use your phone.
175 million 118,000 units of ordinary shares in favor, while 86,769,000 units voted against, and 23,383,000 units abstained. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mrs. Adeleye. Majority only. I hereby declare the motion carried. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, we have now completed the formal business of the annual general meeting. And I would like to thank you all on behalf of the board and management for demonstrating your continued interest in and support of the company's affairs by attending this meeting. Before our departure, some of you will be invited to join the board and management to cut the centenary cake, anniversary cake. I will now invite Mrs. Zainab Bajadi and Mr. Godfrey Adejumo to coordinate the cutting of the cake. Thank you all for coming. I wish you safe journey back to your various destinations. I now declare the meeting closed.
National.
So yeah, so I want to ask.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, camera. You need to do. So when are you in tomorrow morning? Okay, okay. You don't have any space. The only space you have is so, so, so these are the things to see when there's a conference. These are the things to see.